Hello, welcome to Now Tell Us. This is a place where people come and tell us stories. They come and inspire us. They come and educate us on something or even highlight a cause that they are passionate about. And always, we are having great guests. Today's show, we have a great guest who has a long name that I am afraid to pronounce, but we are going to learn it together once we have started the show. And at this point, I want to remind you to always share this video with your friends and subscribe to our channel. And the place to find past and future episodes, it's at www.nowtellus.com, both on video and on audio, where you go to audible.com and get us there, go to Spotify, name it. We are there. And now, because I don't want to take much of your time, I want you to listen as our guest tells us how to say no. Just say no. I mean, we like saying yes, but he's going to tell us how to say no. So, without taking one more minute, I'm going to invite to the show John Chilkotowsky. That's a hard name.
I appreciate your courage, Anthony.
How are you? Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Anthony. I'm doing great. And yourself?
It's just an honor to have you here on our show. I'm doing great too. And I'm excited that what we are going to learn at this episode of saying no. But if you can say yes to my question, please tell us what is behind your long name.
Well, you could hide a lot behind it. But honestly, Anthony, the question of my name is still a question. I believe that it's Chilkotowsky. You were 99% there.
Mhm.
But I believe that it comes from Polish ancestry. But as with many people who've come to America, it can be tough to trace ancestry after a certain generation. So there's still a little bit of mystery there, and I'm still looking to see where it's really from.
Okay, maybe we'll join you in the quest to find out. Okay, so you say you're in the United States. Which part? Which part of the United States?
Yeah, I am in upstate New York, a little ways the Finger Lake, a little way from Ithaca, New York, home to Cornell University.
Oh, okay. And I'm glad that you said yes to my invite to be in this show. But uh, you say that I just say no. What do you mean by just say no? Just say no.
So in my work, Anthony, I work as an executive coach. I I find that a lot of time people, especially in their careers, but it can be within all of life, right? But within their careers, they're saying yes to this and that and this and that and this, and they end up being stressed, tired, anxious, burnout, when all the time they knew I should be saying no right now. I should
Mm-hmm.
say no to this. And we're not talking about someone not fulfilling the duties of their job or something like that, but
Mm-hmm.
just to the point of somebody says, "Can you do this?" There's this knee jerk response to say yes, yes, I can do that, but inside we're saying, "No, you can't do that," or "Why would you even do that? You don't want to do that. You don't have to do that." So I started getting really curious along the way of what's going on here. And I found that a lot of people had done a lot of research, but it really comes back in the research and the theories to when we were very young. And I don't know if this happened for you, Anthony, but for me, and I imagine a lot of people, it was when we're very young, we're taught, you know, if you don't have something nice to say, don't say it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you want to get friends, you want to be kind, you want to be helpful. And I think those are all really good things. But I think somewhere the message got in that if we're not that way, if we don't say yes to some things, that we're not going to have friends. We're not
Mm-hmm.
going to have affection and acceptance. And that's pretty serious. If I thought I'm going to lose my friends. I'm going to lose acceptance from the people I really appreciate. I'm going to do whatever I can to keep that. And so I think what happens for us is, as adults, we haven't grown out of that a lot of times, and so we'll just say yes, when inside we just keep saying no.
Hmm. And you were young, and we are curious. And now tell us, can you tell us how it was growing up?
Hmm. So I consider myself very, very fortunate where I grew up. It's sort of in it's almost in something they show in movies today of, oh, how did somebody have a wonderful childhood experience? What I mean by that, Anthony, I had a chance. I grew up in southern Jersey. I had a chance to. I had forests that I could go into and have adventures with my friends. I had a neighborhood where I could go from house to house to house, and parents would greet me. Parents would say, "Oh, we're glad to have you here." And I would be out to, all hours in the evening, until at least until dinner time, and then sometimes after. And for me, that was a chance to explore. That was it, and life felt safe. So I think about, a lot of things in the world today where I know that most kids or many kids don't have that, and some kids don't have any of that. And so I
Mhm.
feel very, very fortunate. But I think what that gave me was an opportunity to be curious. And so I think a thread for me, Anthony, that runs through all of this is, and to what I'm doing today, was just this curiosity. How did the world work? How do people work? How do I work? That it's still, I haven't figured any of those things out. I keep finding more and more questions, hopefully.
Yeah, and someone said that learning never stops. So you keep finding more as we also keep searching for more. And
Hmm.
at this point, I want to thank each and every person who's watching us, those who get to listen to us even after we are through with this episode. And just to mention one of us who is watching, we say yes because we want validation from others. Says Kathy Kabasia. Or is it
Yeah,
Kavasi?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it is, we love that opportunity to know that we're seen and acknowledged. We all want to be seen and acknowledged. It's when we say yes to something, we're also saying, and we happen to be saying no to some part of ourselves. That's the part here that really is the issue. I don't want to say saying yes, there's anything wrong with that, unless at some point it's actually saying no to some opportunities or just saying no to something we value.
Hmm. Now, so please tell me how I can just get that courage or how to go about training
Hmm.
myself to say no when I shouldn't say no.
Yeah, well, so it's a great question. I mean, I don't have a magic wand, but I think it starts with recognizing, being able to ask that question of ourselves. If I'm saying yes to this, what am I saying no to? So if it's like, a simple example would be, if I'm saying yes to extra work at night, extra work on the weekends, whether that's in the office or away from an office, or am I saying no to my children? Am I saying no to my spouse or significant other? Am I saying no to some other pursuit that I'm really passionate about? And so I personally believe it's at those moments where we recognize the cost of saying yes to these things outweighs the benefit of it, that we start to recognize, okay, I want to make a change here. And then what I would say, Anthony, is generally, we know, right? Are we someone who says yes to way too many things, or is it just specific things? But I encourage people to get specific with, where can I start to say no to some things which are really impacting me right now in my life or others in my life. And
Mm-hmm.
so, um, and then within that, I think what you're looking for and what everybody looks for is but how do I do that? So I've
Mm-hmm.
I've got this one thing. Um, it's really painful for me when I say yes to this person with requests they make all the time
Mm-hmm.
that are not things I need to say yes to. Okay, so how do I do it? Because I'm ready to say no, and then all of a sudden I'm saying yes is coming out of my mouth. So a couple of things I would say just as tips or possibilities there. The first is don't apologize. So one of the things that we often get into when we say no is, I want to say yes. I really want to say yes. I'm so sorry, but I've got laundry to do, and I have this movie I need to watch, and so we don't need that. We don't need to justify saying no. And
Mm-hmm.
I think adding the apologies makes it unclear, makes it seem like, oh, well, what if I can take care of your laundry for you? Can you say yes then? What if I can make sure? Would you say yes then? So it it becomes an opportunity to keep saying yes, is I guess what I want to say. And it's unclear for both people that no is really the proper thing. So that's one part I would say. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think being polite is, we're concerned that somehow we're going to harm this relationship. So I think just simply at the beginning saying, thank you for asking, or just thank you in some way, starting with that. It's very natural for us.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to say no to that, Anthony. I'm just
I
teasing.
have got to say no.
I'm teasing.
Yes, and this is a very good example. Sorry for that. It was unexpected.
um,
And I've said no.
Good job. Good job.
Okay.
Uh,
Now, and that happens, and something I'm going to ask, and maybe that was
yeah.
was a question coming. That happens
Yeah.
to be a family member. Do you just say no to a family member and the request they make?
Uh, this is the toughest, right? So
Yeah.
a lot of my work is with people at work, but yes, when it comes over into the family, well,
Mm-hmm.
now there's a layer of, there's our family, there's cultural expectations, there's, maybe if we're the son or the daughter, and in some way there might be other expectations. Um, so I would say being direct is important here. And by direct, I don't mean being a jerk. I don't
Mm-hmm.
mean, we don't have to be forceful, but just being direct and saying, you know, no, thank you. No, that's really not something I want to do right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's really not something I want to do. But um, behind that is remembering, and this is probably the hardest part, Anthony, is remembering that our self-worth doesn't matter how much we do for other people. And
Mm.
I think that's the part, is we collapse this into, if I don't do this for this person, I'm not a good person. I won't be a good person to them. And I sort of try to flip it to, if you say yes to all these things, are you really your best person?
Mm-hmm.
Are you coming from integrity? Are you coming from your heart with what you really value? And
Mm-hmm.
uh, so then the other part I would say is, to prepare for these. This is, you've just gone from a maybe an easy thing to say no to a work assignment to a someone we know and love, and they're expecting us to say yes, because
Mm-hmm.
we've probably said yes to them in a lot of our lives. So I usually again say, like, let's start with something small. Start with something small. So if, I don't even know what an example would. Do you have an example, Anthony?
Something small, like um, I don't have an example that comes straight
Okay.
right away.
Here's
Yeah.
here's an example. So um, I'll choose one from my life. So someone says to me, um, John, would you? I know you're here visiting, but would you mow the lawn while you're here? Now,
Mm-hmm.
it might take. It's a really hot day. It might take 90 minutes to do it. Would I mow the lawn? Sure, but on that day, I already have everything planned. I have a full day, and if I do say yes to it, it will mean less time to visit together.
Mm-hmm.
I can't cut the other things out. So for me, if I'm really, if my knee jerk would be, yeah, oh sure, I can mow the lawn. I would ask myself, okay, if I do that, I won't have the visit time that I really value. And I know that they value also. So be able to voice it and say, do you know what? I know how important having a lawn cut right now is, but I'm really concerned that we're not going to have time to connect and talk. So I wonder if it's possible either to put that off for another day, or is it possible somehow for me to, help get somebody else to do that this time? Might still be, no, I'd love to meet with you, but I need the lawn cut. So then there's choices to make, right? And I think everybody in that moment has a choice to make. I had a choice to make. I did cut the lawn, by the way. I did. So I did, but it was after being able to voice it. I didn't feel any resentment. I still felt a little sad because I wanted the meeting time, but I know what it meant to them. I know what it meant to them to have it done then. So that's what I would say. That's just one example.
Kathy says that she used to say to really struggle saying no until she figured out that it was an issue of boundaries. She had none.
Well, so boundaries, yeah. Kathy brings up. I mean, this is a great, and I know, Anthony. This will expand beyond one conversation here. But
go ahead.
Boundaries, for us, I think about it as there's some things we talk about boundaries, and we might put up what's called like a brick wall. So appropriately, if we're out late at night, someone came up to us in a parking lot, and we feel threatened physically, there should be a brick wall there. We're not going to allow ourselves or our loved ones be harmed physically, right? That's a brick wall. But there's other things where maybe we're a little more like a sponge. Things can kind of flow in and out more easily. I think about it as what's that middle line where we can be flexible and agile and figure out in the moment, do I need to have something firmer? Do I need to have something a little more open? And so I think most often people fear that whatever boundary they share is going to feel like a brick wall to someone else. But I encourage people to think about, there's a lot more that could happen in there. You could say, no, I will not do this. Or you could say, no, thank you. Right now, that's not something I'm willing to do. Maybe there's another time, or maybe there's another way, or can I help you find another way? Or there's yes, I'll do it. That's the that's the far end that we're trying to maybe move away from sometimes.
You deal much with executives and in the trainings or anything that you do with them as a group. I know you've had conversations where people told you stories. Which could be the biggest regret that you've had an executive make?
Regret for them, or that I just want to make sure I'm answering it correctly, Anthony.
For them.
Well, I will admit, I try to be very neutral and allow them, allow everybody just in my own, just like myself, live my life and get my bumps and learn my lessons. But I would say a regret I hear from them is the conversation they didn't have. The thing they didn't say, the feedback they didn't give that someone really needed, and they didn't get it anywhere else. And that person's life kept going in the direction that it was, which wasn't helpful. So I think the biggest regret I've heard from others is about a place where they could have been of service by being a little courageous and stepping in and sharing some feedback, helpful, constructive feedback, because they were afraid. Similar reasons. They were afraid of, they might not like me. Our relationship could be harmed, where I think the reverse would have been true. They might have been one of the most valuable people for that person in their life because they had the courage to share something that felt uncomfortable.
And that's quite in line with what we are sharing today, because that feedback could be of telling someone, no, you're not going in the right direction, or whatever you did has a negative impact. I mean, there are things that we see happening around us and we just assume, maybe in family, maybe at the workplace, and you say, I'm not going to tell this person is going in the wrong direction because I'm concerned about how he's going to perceive me as. So I think it's quite in order that they regret having told that. And it's something that we should always remind ourselves to give feedback to, no matter whether it's positive, not just like I love you or maybe you're a good worker, but let the person know of things that are not going right or things that you could not participate in. You just say no. So I think so.
Yeah. And Anthony, on that, I think what stops people is they're concerned that they're right. They believe, and all of us, I'll put myself in here too, we believe, oh, I have the truth and it's going to hurt when I share the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Where if we can step back and be able to say, I'm just going to share my little sliver of truth, and then I'm going to check with them about what's true for them. That seems
Mm-hmm.
to help us a little bit. But anyway, that's another topic.
Yeah, it's another topic altogether, but they say that truth hurts. Truth hurts, yes. So we keep moving. Let's know, in the mode that you work with the executives, the company, and how many companies. I know you've worked with some great companies around. Please give us an insight. Let's get inspired by what you do.
Well, okay. So I do work. I have worked with a number of companies, both for profit, government, and nonprofit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't want to play favorites, Anthony, but I have a lot of experience in my past as a leader working with nonprofit organizations,
Mm-hmm.
and I would say, I'm almost gonna, because I like the big name organizations too. I like the work that I'm doing there and who I get to help. But it's the nonprofits so often that they are there, they're clear on what their mission is. They're clear on how they're helping their community or the world. Um, and and they're the people who are very likely saying yes too often.
Mm-hmm.
And I mentioned at the beginning of, stress, burnout, those things. Most leaders at nonprofits don't last more than 5 years, and when they leave it, they often don't go back. And I think that's sad because of the talent they have, the passion they have. But a lot of times they're so passionate. It's they don't know how to keep that self-care in there for themselves, seeing that they have to recharge their own batteries to keep, going out, because most nonprofits don't solve everything in the world in a day or a week or a year or even 10 years. So it's how to keep going in there. But anyway, I'll pause there, Anthony.
It's interesting. Hey, you viewer, hey, you listener, don't you find it interesting that companies or organizations, non-profits, tell John yes to come and teach them how to say no?
You know,
Uh,
it's true. And I was, and I will
it's
say,
not,
Anthony, go ahead.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
I just
Yeah.
want to say I was a leader in nonprofits, and this was something I struggled with. And
Yeah.
I didn't see the problem. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't see that there was a problem. I just thought, I'll work harder. I'll work smarter. I'll put in more time until, it's like a cell phone where the battery's running out. There's no more battery to give.
Mm-hmm.
And then that starts to affect our relationships because I can't show up and be present and be kind in the way I'd like to be. I can't be curious in the way I'd like to be.
Mm.
And yeah, I
Yeah.
see Kathy saying about, yeah, being able to manage your own energy so you can keep pouring on others. Yeah. And it's not
Yeah.
limitless. We have to recharge it. We have to plug ourselves in if there's a way, and get good sleep and good diet and exercise and have relationships outside of work.
Yeah, that's important. So, to each and every one of you who's listening, who's watching, if you haven't been saying no, then from today you've got to learn to say no to some of those things that are not. I almost said yes.
That's okay. You can say yes to yourself a little more.
Okay. But you can also learn to say no to those things that are going to drain energy from you, those things that are taking some important time that you could be doing some other important things. Learn to say no. And always remember the words of John. And John, we are asking if you would want to follow up with you to learn to say no. How do we connect to you? And maybe someone listening here has an organization or a company that would like to be more productive, have that time to recharge, and so they've got to learn to say no. How do we get connected to you? How do we reach out to you?
Yeah, thank you, Anthony. The easiest way, I have a website, www.northstar-coaching.com. And there it is.
Mm.
Um,
So
and
that's www.northstar coaching.com. Get to connect with John and learn to say no. At least say yes to this invite and go and learn how to say no. Go follow up with John, and I'm sure that you are going to get a lot of value from following up with John. Connect with him. And once again, we thank each and every one of you who's listening, who's watching. We thank you for sharing this show with your friends. Remember to subscribe to us. Remember to always follow us. Yes, yes, we are asking you. Please don't say no. Don't say no. But before we go, we would like John to leave us with a few words that we should always remember. This is your time, John.
oh boy, I think my few words are just to be curious, because for me, everything we're talking about here and beyond it, when judgment comes in, it pushes out curiosity, whether that's of ourselves or of others. So just keep coming back to, what am I actually curious about right now? What can I find curiosity in? And I think that guides my day a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm. So says John, always be curious and keep learning because we never stop learning. So remember those words by John and go ahead and become the best version of yourself by doing the right thing, thinking and saying the right things, and remembering to say no at some point because it's important to you and to those around you.
Mm.
So that's about it for today. And this has been your host, Anthony Morore. And together with John, we are saying bye for now until next time.
Till next
I know
time.
you, yeah, I know you'd like us to stay much more here, but we are saying no to that.
And yes to other things.
Yes, I only say yes to Kathy a bit because Kathy is thanking John and
Thank you,
she says
Kathy.
this is really a worthwhile topic. To the rest of you, I'm saying no, and that's it for now. Bye, 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 bye.